The morning mist hangs heavy in the montane forest, draped between buttress roots and curling around vines like gauze. Sunlight has not yet burned through the canopy, and the air remains damp and cool. Along a narrow trail cut by countless heavy footfalls, the troop of gorillas moves with deliberate rhythm. Leaves brush against their backs, and the soft thud of weight against earth echoes faintly through the understory. The procession halts suddenly. A blackback, a younger male with swelling ambition, tries to push forward, chest lifted, nostrils flaring. He aims to overtake the column and reach a fruiting tree ahead. But before he can, the silverback steps sideways into the path. He looms, muscles coiled, shoulders glistening with dew. In one swift motion, he body blocks the younger male, grips his arm and wrenches him off the trail, dragging him into the foliage. The message is clear and requires no words. Passage, privilege and pace are taxed by the strongman who rules. This form of control is not incidental. It is systemic, a kind of taxation imposed upon the group by the silverback's sheer presence. He eats first at the richest fruit trees, claiming the choicest leaves and stems before others may approach. He dictates when the group moves on, sometimes forcing them to leave a foraging site long before the others are satiated. He positions himself between females and potential suitors, disrupting secret matings with sharp glances or sudden charges. To live under his reign is to pay in opportunity costs. Food delayed, mates denied, freedom curtailed. Yet it is also to receive protection, cohesion, and a measure of stability. The silverback's taxes are not extracted for nothing. They purchase peace in a landscape full of predators and rivals. Female gorillas, who form the foundation of the group, navigate these dynamics with subtle strategies. Some cluster behind the silverback, positioning themselves close to his bulk in times of threat. They gain priority access to protection, but they also signal loyalty, reinforcing his authority. Others drift at the edges of the group, testing proximity to blackbacks or neighboring males, hedging their bets should the silverback falter. These quiet maneuvers are survival strategies as much as they are political acts. In gorilla society, as in human kingdoms, allegiance can be fluid, and females often shape the future of the group by choosing when to cluster and when to drift. The silverback's authority is reinforced not only by direct action, but also by sound. Chest beats roll across valleys, a percussion that resonates for more than a kilometer. These beats, produced by cupped hands striking an air sac beneath the chest, function as both advertisement and deterrent. Each sequence carries unique acoustic signatures, rhythm, speed, resonance, that identify the individual and broadcast his size and strength. In dense forests where visibility is limited, the chest beat is an ID card, a territorial marker, and a challenge all at once. Rivals hear it and weigh the risk of confrontation. Females hear it and evaluate the power of the male who governs them. The beats are less random display than long-distance taxation, reminders that his authority reaches beyond what the eye can see. Bluff charges supplement this sound-based rule. A sudden rush toward a subordinate, branches snapping, and a thunderous roar can be enough to reassert control without actual violence. Yet when bluff fails, drag-away discipline is employed. A blackback too bold in courting a female may find himself physically removed, hauled across the ground in a humiliating display of power. Discipline of this kind is as much spectacle as punishment, ensuring that every member of the group witnesses the cost of defiance. During times of predator threat, the silverback's taxation takes on another dimension. When leopards stalk at the margins of the forest, it is the silverback who positions himself as shield, planting his body between danger and the group. In these moments, females cluster tightly behind him, their infants pressed into their chests. Alarm calls ring out, but the configuration is always the same: muscle at the front, vulnerability behind. His monopoly on protection, like his monopoly on food and mates, reinforces why his taxes are tolerated. Without him, the group fractures into vulnerability. The energy economics of this system are costly. Guarding multiple females, patrolling territory, and responding to challenges demand calories far beyond those required for survival alone. The silverback consumes enormous quantities of vegetation each day, stems, shoots, and fruits, to fuel his body and sustain his dominance. Every chest beat, every charge, every drag-away is an expenditure that must be offset by foraging. This balance is delicate, especially during lean seasons when food is sparse. The very act of ruling drains the reserves needed to continue ruling. Authority is as much a physiological burden as it is a social one. The fragility of authoritarian peace becomes most apparent during transitions of power. When a silverback weakens, whether from age, injury, or simple fatigue, challengers circle. Blackbacks test his reactions more boldly. Females drift further, seeking options beyond his waning strength. A coup can unfold in a single violent afternoon. The battle between males is brutal. Charges, bites, grappling collisions of muscle that shake the understory. When the dust settles, the old ruler may be dead, exiled, or broken, and a new silverback claims the throne. But the violence does not end there. Takeovers often bring infanticide, as the new silverback eliminates offspring that are not his own. By killing dependent infants, he accelerates the return of females to fertility, allowing him to sire his own progeny quickly. For mothers, counter-tactics have evolved. Some conceal ovulation, making it difficult for males to monopolize their fertility. Others seek proximity to the victorious silverback, grooming him and fostering tolerance in hopes he will spare their young. These strategies do not always succeed, but they represent a constant negotiation at the edge of survival. From an evolutionary perspective, the chest beat itself reveals why such violence persists. Low-frequency sounds travel more efficiently across forested valleys, and larger males produce deeper beats. This acoustic adaptation ensures that size and strength are broadcast clearly, reducing the need for constant physical confrontation. Yet when rivals ignore the warning, violence ensues and peace collapses. The system is stable until it is not. Authoritarian peace in guerrilla society is thus a paradox. It produces cohesion, protection, and predictability, but it is fragile, dependent entirely on the stamina of one male. His taxes bind the group together, yet they also sow the seeds of rebellion. The females cluster behind his muscle until the day his grip falters, and then they drift, accelerating his fall. What endures for years can unravel in hours, leaving behind a reconfigured order. In the misty forests where silverbacks reign, justice is not collective. It is imposed by force, maintained by sound, and dissolved in violence. The chest beat that echoes across valleys is both promise and threat, a tax collected in calories, compliance, and loyalty. Stability endures until a single afternoon of chaos overturns it. Guerrilla society is authoritarian peace, paid for daily, ending suddenly when the strongman's power runs out. The forest before dawn is a place of hushed anticipation. The air is cool and heavy with dew, the canopy overhead still cloaked in darkness, and the ground below damp with the night's condensation. Cicadas have quieted, and the first tentative calls of birds are yet to pierce the silence. In this moment of transition, spider monkeys stir. Their bodies are shadows against the dim outlines of lianas, and their movements are measured, quiet, deliberate. A soft whinny-like call rises from one branch, answered faintly by another further off. It is not meant for enemies or rivals, but for kin, a signal of readiness, a whisper in the pre-dawn silence. Within minutes, the troop fractures, splitting into 3 subgroups. Each one threads its way toward the same towering fig crown, converging from different angles like raiders closing in on a vault. This pre-split maneuver is the foundation of their survival strategy. Spider monkeys live in fission-fusion societies, where a larger community of 20 or more individuals rarely travels as a single, unified mass. Instead, they fragment daily into smaller foraging units, adjusting size and composition to match the resources available. When fruit is abundant, the subgroups may be large, with mothers and infants traveling together. When scarcity tightens, subgroups shrink, reducing competition and spreading risk. What appears chaotic is in fact logistical genius, a system of flexibility that maximizes efficiency in a landscape where resources fluctuate wildly. In this morning's raid, 3 units head toward one goal: each aware that speed and timing will determine whether the crown is theirs alone or shared with slower competitors. The fig tree at the center of this maneuver is a colossus. Its branches sprawl outward in all directions, each laden with clusters of fruit in varying stages of ripeness. For many animals of the forest, figs are keystone resources, available when other fruits are scarce. Howler monkeys, toucans, bats, and countless insects converge upon them, each carving out a share. For spider monkeys, ripe figs are golden currency, dense with sugars, rich in water, and easily digested. The timing of their arrival is critical. Too late, and the crown will already be stripped bare. Too early, and the fruits will be unripe, their payoff diminished. Arriving first and fast is the only guarantee of success, and this is why the troop converges like a well-drilled crew executing a plan. As the first subgroup nears the fig, they move silently until the canopy above erupts in motion. A rival party of howler monkeys is already feeding, their guttural roars rumbling low across the branches. The spider monkeys shift tactics. A male climbs high into the crown, secures his prehensile tail as a grapnel, and begins to shake the branches violently. Leaves and figs rain downward, the tremors amplified through the structure of the tree. The howlers, heavier and slower, falter under the disruption. Intimidated by the commotion, they retreat to sturdier branches. The crown is destabilized not by force of numbers but by the strategic use of motion, a heist tactic perfected to unseat sluggish competitors. Meanwhile, the second subgroup arrives from the opposite side, descending swiftly and plucking fruit in handfuls. Their tails, remarkable prehensile appendages tipped with sensitive pads, function as fifth limbs, anchoring them securely as they strip figs at speed. Infants cling tightly to their mothers' bellies, occasionally reaching out with tiny fingers to snatch a fruit themselves. The third subgroup moves in last, dropping from above. In the chaos of the howler's retreat and the rain of shaken figs, they scoop up windfalls, maximizing gain with minimal effort. It is a coordinated triple-angle strike, executed with precision that belies its apparent spontaneity. The escape is as crucial as the raid. Sentinels, positioned along canopy routes, call out in a series of relay signals, short, nasal whinnies and squeaks that ripple outward through the forest. These calls guide the group into clean dispersal, ensuring that no individual is isolated when rivals regroup or predators appear. Decoy retreats add another layer of complexity. One subgroup may break away noisily, drawing attention, while another slips off silently in the opposite direction, carrying the bulk of the harvest. Juveniles, less encumbered by infants, often serve as runners, ferrying figs to mothers or caching them in temporary piles along escape routes. What appears to be chaos is in fact choreography, a relay of calls, handoffs, and withdrawals, designed to minimize losses and maximize efficiency. Science reveals the depth of planning behind these behaviors. Spider monkeys are renowned for their mental fruit maps, internalized representations of their vast home ranges, which can span hundreds of hectares. They remember not only the locations of key trees, but also the timing of their fruiting cycles. Seasonal loops guide their movements, with certain routes favored in dry months and others during the rains. Within these loops, females often act as the decision makers, initiating departures and leading groups towards specific feeding sites. Their authority is not brute force, but expertise, honed by experience and critical to the survival of infants. Energy economics underpin every decision. Ripe fruit provides rich caloric rewards, but it is patchy, unpredictable, and costly to access. Traveling long distances burns calories, and miscalculations can tip the balance toward deficit. The precision of the triple-angle heist reflects a solution to this dilemma. Maximize intake in the shortest possible time, while minimizing conflict and travel. Every successful raid is an equation solved, a delicate balance of risk, reward, and timing. The tail, often celebrated for its dexterity, plays a central role in this economy. Acting as both anchor and tool, it allows spider monkeys to exploit branches too thin to support their weight. It provides stability during rapid stripping, freeing both hands for fruit gathering. In moments of alarm, it becomes a lifeline, wrapping instinctively around the nearest branch as the monkey launches into escape. In essence, The tail is both grapnel and insurance policy, transforming the canopy into a three-dimensional grid that spider monkeys navigate with unrivaled agility. Competition is relentless, and the heist's success depends on precision. Howler monkeys may retreat initially, but often linger nearby, waiting to reclaim the crown once the spider monkeys disperse. Predators, too, are drawn to the noise of a raid. Harpy eagles watch from high perches, while jaguars prowl the forest floor, alerted by the commotion of falling fruit. This risk demands speed. A fig crown that takes hours for howlers to exploit can be stripped in minutes by spider monkeys. Efficiency is their defense as much as it is their survival strategy. What emerges is a picture of extraordinary coordination. The pre-dawn split, the whisper calls, the sentinels, the branch-shaking intimidation, the relay calls during retreat, all of it coalesces into a pattern that resembles nothing so much as a heist film scripted in vines. There is planning, execution, deception, and clean withdrawal. Success is measured not in loot, but in calories secured and risks avoided. For spider monkeys, survival is a daily theft conducted against competitors, predators, and the forest itself. In the grand theater of the canopy, this strategy is not merely clever, it is essential. Spider monkeys occupy an ecological niche that demands flexibility, intelligence, and precision. Their reliance on ripe fruit, their fission-fusion societies, and their female-led foraging decisions have converged to produce behaviors that blur the line between instinct and culture. Each raid is both an evolutionary adaptation and a cultural performance, refined over generations, yet flexible enough to adjust to daily conditions. The triple-angle fruit heist is, in the end, a testament to the intelligence of the canopy's thieves. They split before dawn, converge with precision, intimidate rivals, strip the crown, and vanish into the foliage before the forest fully wakes. What might seem chaotic to the untrained eye is in fact a masterpiece of coordination, a clean heist movie written not in ink or celluloid, but in vines, branches, and the fleeting sweetness of figs. At dawn, the forest valley is not filled with birdsong, but with thunder. A roar rolls through the canopy, low and guttural, echoing off ridgelines and vibrating in the chests of those who hear it. It is not the sound of a jaguar or the rumble of thunderclouds. It is the voice of a howler monkey, amplified by an inflated hyoid sac the size of a clenched fist. His call is answered in layers, one male joining another, until the entire ridge resonates with a chorus that seems far larger than the group producing it. The roars serve as fences of sound, claiming space without teeth. Yet behind these vocal walls lies a volatile reality. Sooner or later, roars give way to charges, coalitions shift, and coups reshape the canopy in an afternoon of chaos. The hyoid bone, expanded into a resonating chamber in howlers, is one of the most extraordinary adaptations in primates. It acts as a biological amplifier, allowing males to project roars that carry over 5 kilometers. These low frequencies travel efficiently through humid air and dense foliage, outcompeting higher-pitched sounds that fade quickly in cluttered habitats. The result is a system where energy is saved by intimidation at a distance rather than by constant physical battle. It is an economy of sound, where calories are conserved through acoustics. But this economy is fragile, for sound can only hold territory as long as rivals respect it. When ambition builds or coalitions change, the roaring ceases to be warning and becomes prelude to violence. On a ridgeline, the drama often unfolds. Two groups face one another across a narrow divide, tails coiled around branches, bodies swaying with tension. The roars that began as distant booms rise into dueling choruses, timed with precision so that one group seems to overlap and smother the other. The males inflate their hyoid sacs until their throats balloon grotesquely, every muscle vibrating as the air surges through. Then comes the rupture. One coalition charges forward, branches snapping under their weight, a short chase exploding across the ridge. These bursts of combat rarely last long, for the bulk of dominance is determined not by extended grappling, but by the alignment of coalitions and the morale of followers. If one group hesitates, if one male falters, the tide turns. The old ruler can be ousted in seconds, his years of reign dissolved in a single sprint. The consequences ripple immediately through the troop. In one-male groups, where a single dominant male guards exclusive breeding rights, the risk of takeover is catastrophic for infants. A new ruler seeks to clear the genetic slate, killing dependent young so that females return quickly to estrus and his own lineage can begin. Mothers respond with desperate strategies. Some cluster close to the new male, grooming him, pressing infants near his chest as though proximity might buy tolerance. Others attempt to conceal ovulation timing, clouding the male's ability to monopolize their cycles. Still others may form loose alliances with fellow mothers, mobbing in defense, though success is rare. In multi-male groups where several males share breeding rights, the risk of infanticide is lower, for no one male can be certain of paternity. But this dilution of certainty comes at its own cost. Constant negotiation among resident males, each vying for access, each calculating when to cooperate and when to betray. The biology of these shifts leaves traces beyond behavior. Stress hormones, particularly cortisol, surge during usurpations, spiking in both males and females. For the deposed ruler, cortisol floods his system as he faces exile, injury, or death. For females, stress surges as they navigate the danger to their offspring and adjust to new dominance structures. Even infants show elevated stress markers when instability reigns, evidence that the ripples of a coup are physiological as much as social. Stability lowers stress, instability floods bodies with it. Howler society is written not only in sound but in hormones. Selective silence reveals another layer of their strategy. Though howlers are famed for their noise, they know when to mute themselves. When jaguars prowl the forest floor or harpy eagles shadow the canopy, groups fall into sudden stillness. Calls that would normally reinforce territory are withheld, for silence can be as protective as roar. In these moments, the sound economy shifts. The cost of advertisement outweighs the benefits, and invisibility becomes the safer investment. This selective deployment of sound underscores the intelligence behind their system. Roars are not reflex, they are calculated tools wielded in context. The energy economics of roaring are significant. Each dawn chorus demands caloric expenditure, the inflation of the hyoid sac and the forceful expulsion of air-burning energy that must be replaced with leaves and fruits. Howlers, unlike the frugivorous spider monkeys or the omnivorous macaques, are primarily folivores. Their diet of leaves is abundant but low in calories, digested slowly in an enlarged gut that ferments fiber into usable energy. This diet constrains activity. Howlers move little compared to other primates, conserving energy through long bouts of rest. The roaring economy is thus doubly strategic. By vocalizing to defend territory, they minimize the need for costly physical encounters, aligning their behavior with their limited energy budget. Yet when roars fail and coups erupt, the cost is immediate and devastating. A new male inherits not only territory, but also responsibility for cohesion. He must re-establish order quickly, for prolonged instability risks losing females to neighboring groups. Mothers who feel insecure may drift, taking offspring with them, reshaping troop size and the balance of power. The new ruler roars at dawn, louder and more frequent, as though reprinting his name on the sonic map of the forest. His dominance must be broadcast daily, for without it, challenges will come sooner. The angle of the story is both tragic and instructive. Howlers are the loudest accountants of the canopy, balancing energy, risk, and lineage with each roar. Their calls tally territory like ledgers, drawing invisible fences across valleys. Yet these fences are fragile, erased not by storms or predators, but by ambition within their own ranks. One coalition shift, one chase across a ridge, and years of authority collapse. The roars that once echoed as unassailable claims become hollow, their resonance fading as a new voice takes their place. In the end, howler society is a system of sound and coup. The valley-filling roars serve as warnings, boundaries, and deterrents, conserving energy in a world where every calorie counts. But sound is only a placeholder, a promise enforced until ambition cracks it open. The old ruler falls, the new one rises, mothers gamble to protect their young, and the chorus begins again. The canopy may seem ordered by voice, but beneath the noise lies a truth as old as primates themselves. Authority is temporary, peace is fragile, and even the loudest accountants can be silenced in an afternoon. The temple stairs are slick with moss, their stone edges softened by centuries of rainfall and footsteps. Incense drifts on the humid air, curling into the canopy where pigeons wheel lazily above carved spires. Pilgrims shuffle slowly upward, clutching offerings, muttering prayers. But they are not alone. From the balustrades and railings, sharp eyes watch. A flash of fur, a sudden leap. And in a heartbeat, a pair of spectacles is gone, clenched firmly in the teeth of a macaque perched smugly on a ledge. The victim stumbles, reaching upward, but the thief does not flee. Instead, it extends one hand, palm open, expectant. Just below, another macaque has planted itself across the stairway, chattering and swaying side to side, blocking the path like a bouncer at a bar. What looks like mischief is in fact an economy, an elaborate exchange system where theft is currency and food is the price of ransom. This behavior is not random snatching. It is organized crime, passed down through generations as a cultural tradition. The hostage for food trade has been documented at temples across South and Southeast Asia, from Indonesia to India. Macaques have discovered that humans will barter to retrieve their possessions, and they have refined the process into an almost ritualized exchange. Glasses, phones, wallets, sandals, objects with high human value are carefully targeted. Once stolen, they are held just out of reach, leverage for negotiation. The payoff is predictable: a banana, a handful of nuts, or a packet of chips. The object is returned, and the cycle resets. Both sides know the rules, and both sides play their roles. The dirty playbook extends far beyond single thefts. Coordinated teams of macaques often work together, one distracting a human while another executes the grab. Juveniles serve as apprentices, watching older relatives snatch and then trading the object upward to higher-ranking accomplices who negotiate the payoff. In some cases, objects are cached, hidden temporarily in crevices or branches, until the human offers a sufficiently tempting ransom. And sometimes, the deception is more theatrical. A macaque may pretend to toss back the object, only to hold it tightly at the last second, forcing the victim to sweeten the deal with more food. The entire operation functions like a protection racket: intimidation, theft, and release, governed by an unspoken contract that everyone involved understands. Behind these crimes lies a deep structure of social order. Macaques are matrilineal, with rank passed from mothers to daughters. High-ranking females and their offspring enjoy privileged access to food and grooming, while low-ranking individuals hover at the edges. In temple settings, this hierarchy extends into theft economies. Dynasties of dominant females monopolize prime stairways and ledges, controlling the flow of tourists and the best opportunities for ransom. Juveniles from these lines are trained early, not only in how to snatch, but in how to negotiate. Males, though often more daring in raids, operate within this framework, their success partly dependent on their ties to powerful mothers and sisters. The ransom economy is not an anarchic free-for-all. It is a system ordered by kinship, enforced by dominance, and perpetuated through learning. Science has shown how cultural transmission underpins this behavior. Unlike instinctive foraging, ransom theft is learned through observation and imitation. Juveniles mimic older individuals, experimenting clumsily at first with low-value items, then gradually refining their technique. Reinforcement learning plays a central role. Successful trades yield immediate food rewards, reinforcing the connection between theft and payoff. Over time, the behavior becomes habitual, spreading through troops and even across generations. What began as opportunism becomes tradition, indistinguishable from natural foraging strategies. The macaques have, in essence, invented a cultural economy parallel to their ecological one. Yet this adaptation comes at a cost. In the wild, macaques consume a varied diet of fruits, leaves, seeds, insects, and small animals. In temples, their caloric intake is dominated by processed foods offered by humans: chips, bread, candy, sweet drinks. These foods provide quick energy, but little in the way of balanced nutrition. Obesity, dental problems, and metabolic stress are common among temple populations. Elevated cortisol levels reflect the chronic tension of human conflict. Constant thefts, chases, and retaliations keep stress hormones high. Urban diet stress overlays a system already shaped by competition, amplifying the physiological toll. The ransom economy sustains them, but it undermines their health. The conflict extends beyond biology into ethics. Pilgrims and tourists often feed macaques intentionally, either out of reverence or amusement, reinforcing the very behaviors that frustrate them. Local communities struggle with the consequences: property damage, bites, and disease transmission. Authorities debate solutions. Should feeding be banned? Should macaques be relocated? Should temples accept the animals as part of their living landscape? Each choice carries weight. To discourage feeding is to starve troops that now depend on human provisions. To relocate them risks breaking up cultural traditions and social bonds. To tolerate them is to accept perpetual tension at the intersection of sacred space and survival strategy. And yet, there is genius in the system. Macaques distinguish between items of varying human value. They learn quickly that a pair of glasses elicits more urgency than a plastic bag, that a phone commands higher ransom than a sandal. Some even adjust their demands mid-negotiation, holding out for better rewards once they sense desperation. This is not rote behavior, but flexible problem-solving, a form of economic reasoning in real time. The line between instinct and intelligence blurs. Are they simply reinforcing patterns, or are they gaming the system consciously, pushing humans to meet them halfway? The spread of ransom behavior across sites suggests that these strategies are not isolated quirks, but cultural currents. In some temples, macaques specialize in ambushes, leaping from rooftops onto unsuspecting visitors. In others, stealth dominates, with thieves slipping silently behind pilgrims to snatch from bags. Distinct dialects of crime emerge, recognizable to researchers as site-specific traditions. Culture in this sense is not limited to humans. The macaques prove that shared learning and innovation can shape communities as much as genes or ecology. For all its chaos, the ransom economy creates a predictable rhythm of daily life. Tourists climb, macaques watch. A theft occurs, a negotiation follows, food is exchanged, the object returned. Then another cycle begins. It is extortion ritualized, crime codified into culture. The temple walls echo not only with chants and bells, but with the chatter of monkeys and the laughter, or curses, of humans paying ransom. The system is exploitative, stressful, and bizarre, yet it is also stable. Like any economy, it balances risk and reward, negotiation and enforcement. At its heart, this story is not about petty theft, but about adaptation. Faced with shrinking forests and expanding human settlements, macaques have found a niche at the intersection of culture and ecology. They have turned crime into survival, inventing a barter system that reflects both their intelligence and their resilience. It is a true protection racket, complete with dynastic control, apprenticeship, and ritualized enforcement. And it is more than survival. It is tradition, passed down the temple steps like prayer chants, embedding itself into the daily rhythm of sacred and profane alike. In the end, the temple ransom economy is a mirror. It shows us that culture is not uniquely human, that crime can be learned and perfected outside our species, and that the line between exploitation and adaptation is thin. The macaques remind us that survival can wear many faces: thief, negotiator, enforcer, trader. Their world is one where glasses and phones become hostages, food becomes currency, and crime becomes culture. In the shadows of temples where gods are carved in stone, living primates have written their own scripture, one of extortion, barter, and the strange genius of survival at humanity's doorstep. The forest canopy of the Congo Basin glows in the slanting light of late afternoon. Ripe figs litter the ground in red constellations, their sweet ferment attracting hornbills, squirrels, and primates alike. At the heart of this clearing, a troop of bonobos clusters around the bounty. The air is thick with the sound of smacking lips, the rustle of leaves, and the occasional burst of high-pitched calls. But then, the rhythm shifts. A large male, shoulders broad and swaggering with confidence, reaches for a cluster of figs already claimed by a female. For an instant, the group stills. Then the females surge. What looks like chaos erupts, several bodies rushing at once, arms slapping, teeth flashing, and shrieks echoing through the air. The male, caught off guard, reels backward. He is not injured, but he is outnumbered, boxed out by a sudden flash mob coalition that scatters him to the edge of the clearing. This is not rebellion for its own sake. It is sanction, a mechanism as integral to bonobo society as claws are to a predator or wings to a bird. Where gorillas impose order through the sheer dominance of one silverback and chimpanzees govern through coalitions of violent patrols, bonobos rely on collective female power, coordinated responses, and sanctions that corral antisocial behavior without dismantling the group. Males may be larger, but their power is fragile. It rests not on brute force alone, but on the alliances they inherit from their mothers and the tolerance of the females around them. When they overstep, sanctions arrive swiftly, not in blood but in exclusion. At the heart of this dynamic are female coalitions. Bonobos are unusual among primates in that unrelated females form enduring alliances, strengthened by food sharing and social grooming. These bonds allow them to mobilize quickly against domineering males. The bullying male at the fig tree did not face one opponent but many, united not by kinship but by shared interest. Together, the females ensure that no single male monopolizes resources, preserving a measure of equality in a system where physical power alone might otherwise dictate access. Their unity creates what primatologists often describe as a female-dominated society, though it is more nuanced than simple inversion of power. Authority here is diffuse, relational, and negotiated through constant sanction and reconciliation. Mother-backed rank plays a crucial role in this arrangement. Young males often inherit their initial status through their mother's standing. A high-ranking mother can elevate her son's position, securing him tolerance and allies, while a low-ranking mother offers no such leverage. Yet this maternal backing is not a shield against misbehavior. When males act aggressively or monopolize food beyond what the group accepts, they may find themselves sanctioned regardless of pedigree. Mothers too sometimes withhold support, choosing to preserve their standing with other females rather than defend a son who has overstepped. The system ensures that rank is never absolute. It is continuously renegotiated through behavior and coalition. The sanctions themselves vary in form. Flash mob pylons are among the most dramatic. Multiple females rushing a male in coordinated bursts, pushing, biting the air, and forcing him backward until he yields. These assaults rarely cause serious injury. They are less about physical punishment than about spectacle, a public reprimand witnessed by the entire troop. Other sanctions are subtler, but no less effective. A male may be denied access to food, pushed away from a cluster of fruit, or blocked from approaching females in estrus. Grooming, the social glue of primate life, can also be withheld. Denial of grooming isolates a male psychologically, sliding him down the social ladder until he recalibrates his behavior. The beauty of these sanctions lies in their balance. They are firm enough to correct behavior, but restrained enough to prevent troop collapse. Bonobos do not spiral into lethal infighting as chimpanzees sometimes do. Instead, they employ reconciliation rituals that reset tension. After a sanction, the same individuals may engage in grooming, play, or food sharing within hours. The reset is deliberate, ensuring that the group maintains cohesion despite conflict. Tension is not eliminated, but it is absorbed into a cycle of sanction and reconciliation that sustains stability. It is power without prisons, discipline without permanent exile. Science offers deeper insight into how these coalitions and reconciliations are maintained. Oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding and trust, surges during grooming and food sharing, reinforcing alliances among females. These biochemical reinforcements turn individual acts of cooperation into enduring social glue. In the ecological backdrop of the Congo Basin, where fruit abundance often exceeds that of harsher habitats, the pressure to compete violently is reduced. This relative abundance allows for more tolerance, more sharing, and more investment in alliances. Scarcity tends to amplify aggression. Abundance permits the luxury of sanctions over slaughter. Immigration dynamics also shape bonobo society. Females often disperse from their natal groups at maturity, joining new communities. Unlike in chimpanzees, where immigration can be violent and fraught, bonobo females integrate more smoothly, often welcomed through grooming and food sharing. This flow of females between groups infuses genetic diversity and prevents coalitions from ossifying into rigid cliques. Immigration, like reconciliation, becomes a stabilizer, ensuring that the politics of bonobo life remain fluid rather than brittle. The ecological context cannot be overstated. Fruit abundance in the bonobo's range creates a buffer against the zero-sum logic of chimpanzee society. While chimpanzees in resource-scarce environments patrol borders and launch violent raids to secure feeding grounds, bonobos in fruit-rich forests can afford more tolerance and sharing. This ecological difference ripples outward into social structure, shaping not only behavior, but also biology. Cortisol levels, the physiological markers of stress, tend to be lower in bonobos compared to chimpanzees, reflecting a society that resolves tension more quickly and violently less often. Still, bonobo life is not devoid of conflict. Coalitions shift, alliances break, and males do rise and fall. But the mechanisms of sanction and soft exile mean that conflict rarely escalates to lethal levels. A male who consistently misbehaves may find himself marginalized, tolerated at the edges but denied central status. Soft exile is not banishment from the troop, but relegation to irrelevance. In evolutionary terms, it is a slow death of opportunity, as access to mates and food dwindles. This form of exile disciplines without destroying, pruning behavior without fracturing the group. What emerges from this system is a form of governance that mirrors a boardroom more than a battlefield. Decisions are shaped by coalitions, sanctions are deployed like votes of no confidence, and reconciliation functions as a merger that prevents collapse. The rules are unwritten yet deeply understood, enforced through biology, behavior, and culture. The troop survives not because one male enforces order through strength, nor because all individuals fend for themselves in anarchy, but because power is shared, contested, and mediated through sanctions. In the end, bonobo society is a reminder that power need not always wear the face of violence. Sanctions and soft exile, flash mobs and reconciliations, oxytocin bonds and maternal politics, these mechanisms weave together a social fabric where peace is preserved without prisons. The boardroom coups of bonobos show us an alternative model of primate governance, one where authority is diffuse, where checks and balances are constant, and where the loudest bully can be humbled not by a single rival, but by the quiet unity of many. It is a society that balances competition and cooperation, tension and reconciliation, in a delicate dance sustained by ecology, biology, and culture. The morning light seeps into the forest canopy, casting pale beams across the highest branches. Mist clings to the emergent trees like a veil, and from this aerial stage a sound erupts, clear, resonant, and unmistakable. A pair of gibbons sings in duet, their voices entwined in soaring phrases that ricochet across valleys. The female launches the opening phrase, a series of high-pitched notes that build like a ladder toward the sky. The male joins with resonant booms, punctuating her melody with rhythmic anchors. Their voices overlap, braid, and finally resolve into a cascading climax that echoes for kilometers. It is music, but also proclamation. This patch of canopy belongs to them. Yet even as the final notes fade, the duet fractures. A rival male intrudes along the boundary line, swinging brazenly on thin branches. The resident male launches into pursuit, brachiating with fluid precision, arms propelling his body in long arcs. He closes the distance in seconds, planting both feet squarely into the rival's chest. The impact rattles the branches, leaves explode into the air, and the intruder clings desperately to a swaying perch before retreating. What began as a love song has transformed into a canopy skirmish, a performance equal parts romance and martial art. This duality defines gibbon society. Territories are not claimed by solitary males nor defended by loose bands, but by bonded pairs. A male and female, often with their dependent young, patrol and defend a section of forest with both voice and violence. Their duet is not simply courtship, but a military alliance, a sonic fence that both deters rivals and binds the pair together. The duet, repeated daily, strengthens the pair bond while simultaneously broadcasting ownership of feeding grounds and sleeping trees. Outsiders who ignore these vocal warnings risk escalation, and escalation in the canopy can be brutal. The mechanics of these vocal fences are extraordinary. Each gibbon pair has a unique spectrogram signature, a combination of frequency, rhythm, and phrase structure that functions like an auditory fingerprint. Neighboring pairs recognize one another by these signatures, and juveniles learn their family anthem through years of exposure. Young gibbons, perched beside their parents, practice awkward versions of the duet, their voices cracking and stumbling like human children learning to sing. Over time, their phrases refine until they match the family pattern. When these juveniles disperse to form new pairs, they will craft new duets with their partners, blending heritage with innovation. It is a cultural transmission system as complex as any human folk tradition, mapped onto the canopy through sound. Emergent trees serve as acoustic towers, amplifying these duets across kilometers of dense forest. By climbing to the highest crowns, gibbons project their voices beyond the clutter of the mid-canopy, ensuring that their signals reach both rivals and potential mates. Sound travels differently at these heights. Low frequencies roll across valleys, while high notes pierce through the tangle of leaves. The duet is finely tuned to this environment, balancing power with clarity, volume with detail. The forest is both stage and amplifier, shaping the evolution of gibbon song as much as any social pressure. But sound alone does not secure territory. Rivals test boundaries constantly, camping near edges, waiting for weakness. Subadults, once tolerated within the group, are eventually evicted, their presence no longer welcome when they reach maturity. These evictions are dramatic, involving aerial chases, kicks and slaps that send young gibbons tumbling through branches. Exile is not merely a punishment, it is a necessity, preventing incest and forcing dispersal to new territories. For the parents, eviction is a declaration. Their bond is exclusive, their territory closed. For the juveniles, it is the beginning of a perilous search for a mate and an unclaimed stretch of forest. The fights themselves are spectacles of agility. Gibbons move with brachiation, swinging arm over arm in arcs that carry them up to 15 meters in a single glide. During confrontations, this agility becomes weaponized. A male may launch himself at a rival with both heels extended, striking with force amplified by momentum. Slaps are delivered on narrow perches, timed so that the branch itself recoils under impact, unbalancing the opponent. Victory songs follow immediately, with pairs reinforcing their success through renewed duets sung over the contested boundary. These performances broadcast not only territorial defense, but also the stamina and coordination of the pair, turning violence into advertisement. The risks of this canopy warfare are immense. A misjudged leap can result in a fall of 30 meters or more, with injury or death almost certain. Broken limbs mean starvation in the canopy, where brachiation is essential for movement and foraging. Yet the rewards of holding a large territory outweigh the risks. Gibbons feed primarily on ripe fruit, supplemented with leaves, flowers, and occasional insects. Fruit trees are patchily distributed, and larger territories ensure access to more reliable feeding sites. The size of a territory, and thus the quality of a pair's diet, is directly tied to their ability to defend it. Risk, then, is woven into survival. Science reveals the energy costs of this lifestyle. Brachiation, though efficient compared to quadrupedal climbing, still demands enormous caloric expenditure. Defending a large range through daily duets and occasional skirmishes magnifies this cost. Yet gibbons are adapted to balance these demands. Their long arms and hook-like hands reduce energy expenditure per swing, while their small bodies, relative to limb length, maximize momentum. Their digestive systems are tuned to extract energy from a diet dominated by fruit sugars, fueling the intense activity required to patrol and defend territories. Every kick, every song, every chase is powered by this ecological equation. The social consequences of these dynamics ripple through generations. Juveniles evicted into the wider forest face daunting odds. Without a territory, they risk starvation or death at the claws of predators such as clouded leopards and eagles. Yet dispersal is also opportunity. By moving beyond natal ranges, young gibbons prevent inbreeding and establish new territories, seeding the forest with genetic diversity. Their inherited knowledge of song patterns ensures continuity, while their innovations create variation. The canopy is thus a patchwork of overlapping soundscapes, each pair singing their identity, each voice both heritage and invention. From a broader perspective, gibbons embody the convergence of romance and warfare. Their pair bonds are tender, reinforced daily through grooming, food sharing, and song. Yet these bonds are also militant, structured around defense of territory and exclusion of rivals. Love duets can pivot instantly into martial cries, aerial dances into violent dropkicks. The juxtaposition is stark but consistent. Romance sustains the alliance, and violence secures its future. The irony of this system is that the gibbon's most beautiful trait, the duet, is inseparable from its most violent. Spectrogram signatures that enchant researchers are also declarations of exclusion, precursors to fights that leave bruises and scars. Emergent trees, serving as amphitheaters for song, are also battlegrounds where falls mean death. Romance and kung fu canopy war are two sides of the same coin, inseparable in the evolutionary fabric of gibbon life. In the end, gibbon society is a reminder that love and violence often intertwine in the natural world. Duets that rise like operas at dawn are not only love songs but territorial anthems, and the dropkicks that follow are not mindless brawls but tactical enforcement. Pair bonds are military alliances as much as romances, their stability written in both harmony and bruises. The canopy is both concert hall and battlefield, and gibbons are its singers and fighters, lovers and warriors. Their story is one of elegance and danger, beauty and brutality, romance that becomes kung fu canopy war.